Go subscribe to my new channel. As soon as we get 200 subscribers, I will be dropping my first video. Thank you in advance. Long live CC. Welcome back to Supremely Black Podcast. This is your host, D Rose, man. I hope everybody's having an amazing Friday. Let's get right into it. We've been seeing it back and forth. Shannon Sharpe, Skip Bayless, they have a show, Undisputed, that actually launched in 2016 of September, if I'm not mistaken. Shannon Sharpe also has his own podcast that launched in September of 2020. They started in 2016, so they've been on air a little bit over 6 years, probably it'll be 7 in September, right? So they had an issue in regards to Damar Hamlin being injured and almost having to be relieved of a cardiac arrest on the field. They had spoken, said that he had to be brought back to life. Ambulance had to come onto the field, take him to a hospital where he's actually now regained his conscience. He's FaceTime his teammates. Had an amazing story of saying that he had actually asked of who won the game. And, the doctors had told him you had won life because he came back to life. Amazing story. I'm glad that he is actually healing from his heart attack. Like, that's just to think about that, being on the field and playing football and playing sports myself. I'm pretty sure that everybody that was on the field in the stands were just completely, traumatized by the events. However, Skip Bayless had made a tweet that I had talked about in my last video that he didn't necessarily come across as the most compassionate in regards to the situation, but him being a journalist, he was doing his job. So I'm not about to bash him in regards to that. I think the timing was terrible. So Shannon Sharpe came back onto the show. They got into it immediately in regards to Skip couldn't allow Shannon to finish his monologue. Now, to me, this is how I look at it. There's two ways to it now. I think that Skip Bayless realizes that his show is not producing with Stephen A. Smith, with some of the other sports shows, Pat McVeigh. Some of the people that are actually on YouTube have competitive numbers with him, and he has Fox behind him that's pushing him. So I feel that he has the pressure of trying to make it as shock jock as possible to make and say the most outlandish shit, right? So Shannon Sharpe stands on this side. A lot of people may consider it as political, but you will hear people say it as like the woke movement. I'm not big on the woke movement at all. I think it's just some cliche term that a lot of politicians are using to whitewash a lot of American history, and I think it's important that you do talk about it. But I do think at times there are things that are considered quote unquote woke that is just bullshit. Like, just to be real with you, like, we don't even, to be that liberal, I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to take it to that side of it. But a lot of people have came to me and was like, okay, what's your real thoughts? I don't fault Skip besides the disrespect for Shannon, right? But my overall thoughts of it is that I feel that Shannon can actually do his own thing without Skip. A lot of people have actually said that Shannon can't. His actual podcast that started in 2020 is actually getting top influencers, top people, top athletes to come and actually sit down and have a real conversation with them. And to me, that comes across as more authentic than getting on Undisputed with Skip, because Skip only has sports to talk about. He wasn't a top athlete. He comes across as a jock that never was, and he uses his time that he spent covering the sport as his competitive advantage, talking with athletes. A lot of athletes don't like him because he will say the God honest truth in regards to their performance. To them, they feel as if that if you've never played the game, why are you so opinionated? Oh, well, that's his job. He's a journalist, right? Sports journalist. But my point of making this video is that Shannon Sharpe honestly doesn't need Skip. I think Skip needs Shannon Sharpe. And from my approach and how, not my approach, but how Skip looks at it, to me, it feels as if that he does not respect Shannon because he's a journalist. He's been to school. He was maybe a scholar and went to a top school and has taken his job very seriously since he's been in the industry 50 years, right? He doesn't, to me, respect athletes' opinions. even though he's never been a top athlete himself. That's what rubs people the wrong way. And the reason why Shannon doesn't necessarily need him in that capacity anymore is because, honestly, his conversations are more respected because he's a Hall of Famer. He's won Super Bowls, like 2 or 3 of them. So when you look at stuff like that, it's going to always be hard for you to respect a guy that didn't play the game at your level, and your conversation that you're going to have with somebody that was at the top of their game, considered one of the best tight ends ever. You're going to be more open and more honest with him. And if he offered you some critique, you're going to almost say, okay, OG, you got that right, because I have to take, responsibility for that. But Skip is just so stuck in trying to create ratings that it doesn't come across as authentic. So it's like, man, get the hell off the TV with him. So it puts Shannon in a tough spot. Be like, bro, you rocking with that? You supposed to be rocking, you rocking with us. Skip the political views or anything like that. Like, Skip keep it real with everybody. But Skip wasn't a top athlete. So that's where it comes in and, rubs people the wrong way. But yeah, I just want to know, what's everybody's thoughts? Do you feel, here's the question, is do you feel that Skip needs Shannon or does Shannon need Skip? My overall thoughts is that Shannon will be all right if he just focused on his podcast and did his own thing. He probably would get more sponsors because, honestly, you really can't get much out of Skip. I think his time is running short. A lot of people don't think so, but drop your comments below. As always, long